Hello everyone, Mr. Lee here. Alright, today in this tutorial you're going to learn how to recreate this particular exercise from page 96. Alright, so without further ado, once you've launched CorelDRAW, you click on File, New. Okay, and you will see this dialog box. Just accept the default, click OK. You see a A4 size page in portrait orientation. So in order to change it to landscape, you can actually click this button, which you have learned before. Now let us first create this portion of the cursor here. All right, you notice that it is something like a rectangle. However, there are some outlines over here, and you probably know that we can actually use the trim function to create this by using rectangles here as the cookie cutter. All right, so let's do it. Let's first create a rectangle. Okay, approximately this size. And after that, we can actually make use of this rectangle to duplicate the cookie cutter as the cookie cutter. So I resize it. Okay, this is one of the outline. Let me just adjust it. Okay, I can also use my arrow key on my keyboard to adjust it precisely. Okay, I can press Ctrl D again to have the exact shape that I want. Notice something here. For my particular piece here, there's not enough space here, so I will need to resize it this way horizontally, and I duplicate one more here. Okay, and I compare the width here, and the width here is slightly different, so I will increase the size slightly again. Alright, so there we go, and let me just adjust the spacing here. Now these three rectangles will form as the cookie cutter. So we will first select the cookie cutter, holding down the shift key to select the rest, and then finally click on the object to be trimmed. All right, and after that, go on to the property bar and select the trim button. Okay, now you can actually shift the cookie cutter out and delete them, as we don't need them anymore. All right, now we can also increase the thickness of the line to make it more stand out. All right, so we can actually select it and click on from the property bar, change it to 1.0 millimeters. Okay, now we're done for the first one. Let's take a look at our final work. Now we can actually make use of the cursor that we have created for the other portion of the cursor, which is the top. All right, and of course we need to make some modifications. Okay, now again from here we can actually duplicate it, shift it up here. However, if you take a look at the final work again, okay, the height is shorter than the one that we have duplicated from, so we need to make some modifications. Okay, again we can make use of the trim function by creating a cookie cutter. So this time we will use a rectangle, draw a rectangle here. So we only want this portion of the cursor. So with the rectangle selected, we can hold down the shift key and then select the pick tool and select the object to be trimmed. Okay, just remember this: when you want to trim something, you always click on the cookie cutter first, and then after that the object to be trimmed, and then after that you go to the property bar and select the trim button. Okay, and then you can then remove the cookie cutter as it is not in use anymore. Okay, now again let us observe our final work here. The final work here, this portion, you will probably notice that this is in the shape of a trapezium. All right, so in order to create a trapezium, we will need to use the basic shapes tools. All right, so click on the basic shape tools, then click on the perfect shapes function of drop down arrow, to display more options, then click on the trapezium button, drag a trapezium out. Okay, however, you can see that this is not exactly what we want. All right, okay, so we will need to do something to it. Okay, so we will need to flip it vertically. So how do you do this? Go to the property bar, using the mirror buttons, we flip it vertically. Okay, and of course we will need to make some modification to the size. Okay, using the resizing handles. Okay, adjust it and then drag it into place. Now take note of this from here. You will need to overlap this trapezium onto the first part of the top part of the castle, because you will need to weld them eventually. So remember the rule of thumb here. In order for you to do welding, you will need to overlap objects. All right, so this is very important. So let me just overlap them. Okay, as you can see, that is not very easy to look at your work in more clearer view. So you can actually use the zoom tool and drag a box around the area that you want to focus more. All right, so this way you can actually make better adjustments. Okay, so make sure you just overlap it. Okay, let me just zoom out again. Okay, next I will need to create the rectangle, another rectangle for the bottom part of this particular part of the castle. Okay, so again, because we want to weld them as one single object, so we will need to overlap the objects. Okay, so just let me zoom in again. Let me just zoom in again to make modifications. Okay, make sure these two edges are exactly in line with these two edges. Okay, and then let me just zoom out to page. And then this time we can actually weld them together. Okay, how do we do that? We click on the pick tool, select the three objects that we have created, and go to the property bar and locate the weld button. All right, so when we click it, all three objects will be welded as one. However, you can see that some of the edges here are not very well done. So how do you do this? Okay, we will zoom in first to this area. Okay, and we will click on the shape tool, click on this particular portion, and you can see small little squares here. These are called nodes. Okay, in order for you to remove nodes, okay, so we don't need two here. All right, you can actually double click this to delete it, or you can right click on it and click on the delete button. All right, we can use this to delete this portion here. As you can see here, there are too many nodes here, so I can actually double click it to remove it, double click it to remove it, double click this to remove it. All right, so there are two options for you. You can right click on a node and delete, or just double click it to remove it. All right, here I think there are two more nodes, so I'll delete this particular one because there's a little edge sticking up here. I just double click this. All right, so I can now zoom out to take a look at my work. All right, it should be better. All right, now the next portion here I want to complete will be the middle part of the castle. It looks like a house. Okay, so this portion here, without explanation, I think most of you should be able to do it. Okay, it's in the form of a rectangle and a triangle. So a triangle, let us recap, all right, is by using the polygon tool. Click on the polygon tool and make sure this is there are three sides. Okay, then you draw a rectangle, then you move it. Okay, now in this case, we will not overlap them because we want to have two different colors for the triangle as well as a rectangle. That is the reason why I'm not going to overlap the triangle onto the square or rectangle. Okay, so we'll leave it this as it is. And next I will draw the flag. Okay, sorry, flag should be created by using a rectangle first. Draw the pole of the flag. Okay, move it in here. Then let's take a look at the final work. Okay, final work is this is something like a rectangle. However, there is a curved edge here, so we will need to think about that later. Okay, let us create a rectangle first using the polygon tool. Make sure it's 3 sides. Drag a rectangle. Okay, as you know that this is the in a different direction, so we will need to rotate it. Okay, click on it again. Sorry, click on the pick tool to move it somewhere here. Obviously it's too big, so let us make some modification. Right, now the tricky part here will be how to turn this line into a curve. Alright, so this is something new, so let us do it slowly. First of all, you will select the triangle first, and after that you will right click on it and then click on convert to curves. You might want to consider remembering the shortcut, which is Control Q. Right, I'll click on it. Okay, after that what you need to do is you click on the shape tool and you need to remove this particular node here. Alright, because it will actually affect your curve if you don't remove this. Alright, so remove this node by double clicking on it, and then after that move on to this line, right click on it and change to curve. Then you move your mouse over to this line. You can see that the mouse pointer has changed into one that has a curve, and then you drag it towards your right. Okay, then let us then move this closer to the flagpole. Okay, you might want to use the your arrow keys on your keyboard to help you. Okay, then I will then select all the objects that made up of this particular part of the castle, and then change it to 1.0 millimeters. Alright, now of course you can go ahead in filling the colors using the standard toolbar. Okay, you can choose any colors you like. Okay, but of course appropriate colors will be more preferred. Okay, if you want to choose more colors, okay, other than these colors, you can actually go to this default palette and click on this button to show more colors. Okay, now you notice that I actually created the 3 objects you know, they are too big. Yeah, because I cannot actually fit my title here. So what can I do to rectify this problem? I can actually use the pick tool and select the whole object. I don't have to group it now. I can choose to group it, but I don't have to because they are all selected as one object. So I can actually resize it. Okay, and then move it, and then I deselect it. Okay, then I can have some space for my title. Okay, I will now create a title by using the text tool. Click on it, and then common mistakes made by students will be they like to drag a box here. This is not the preferred way, so I press Ctrl Z, okay, to escape from the last step. So I click on the A. The correct way should be click on the text tool and just click anywhere on the document and then type the words Macbeth's Castle. Alright, and then if you want to resize it, you can actually resize it just like any other objects. Okay, of course you can change the color as well. Let me choose dark blue. Oops, I did not highlight or select the whole title, and then I should have done that, and then after that I'll click on the standard toolbar, no, sorry, standard default palette, the color palette, to change the color. Alright, that's about it. I will leave it to you to complete the rest. Okay, the windows here for the castle, as well as the clouds and the crescent moon. Alright, so so try your best. Okay, and thank you for watching this tutorial.